Welcome to episode 237 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us, listener. Today, we are going to be finding out about the dry Zinnen ski area in the Italian Dolomites, plus we have a train travel focus. I'm going to be covering how I travelled to Italy by train, plus we'll look at train travel to Serre Chevalier in France. As well as that, we have our regular snow reports, some great gold medal news for Team GB, and we share some of your Valentines ski stories, as well as how you can win some super cool Vallon goggles. Now, my name is Ian Martin. I'd like to introduce my guest today. Firstly, I'm delighted to be joined again by Babsi Lapwood from the Mountain Trade Network. Hi, Babsi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. It's lovely catching up.
My second guest today has also appeared on the show several times before, and I've interviewed him at different places, but first time joining us live in the studio. I'm delighted to welcome Dom Winter, General Manager from Protect Our Winters UK. Hi, Dom. How are you?
Hi, Ian. Yeah, well, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good. Having just got back from one trip, about to go out on another one. Whereabouts are you today, Dom?
I'm in Bristol at the moment, but as you just discussed, was recently in Serre Chevalier, so hopefully we'll get to chat about that later.
Well, we definitely will. In fact, one of the questions I always like to ask my guests is, where did you ski or snowboard last? When was that for you, Babsi?
Actually, we have already been twice, very briefly in Risoul, which is in the southern French regions. And then before Christmas, we had about 4 days in Largs.
Right, great. So you're about to go to dry Zinnen. We're going to talk about that in due course. But that's a pretty good season. I'm interested in that you went to Risoul. Not many people go down there. I've actually been there myself. Oh. What did you make of that?
Well, we just bought a little place there or close by. So we wanted to check out the area. We didn't have very long, but we absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I think the Risoul links with Vars. Is that right? It's quite a big area.
Yeah, we didn't actually go to Vars. We didn't have enough time. No, it's brilliant. Brilliant snow, sunshine. So another really good spot if you like sunshine.
Yeah, well, it's one of those undiscovered gems. We never covered it on the podcast. So when you settle into your place, so maybe you can tell us about that. And what about yourself, Dom? When did you ski or snowboard last?
Yep, so it was Serre Chevalier. Had 2 weeks a couple of weeks ago, and must say we were very lucky with conditions. Had quite a lot of snow, kept coming in overnights on the first week, and then bluebird days, and then the second week we had, I think, more than 50 centimeters in one 24-hour period in the middle of the week. So had a great couple of weeks. Yeah,
nice. You timed that well. And sorry, did you say you were there for 2 weeks? That is a luxury if you were.
Very nice. Yeah.
Lovely. Sometimes it feels if you go on a ski holiday for a week, you're spending the first few days getting into a rhythm, and then you get into it, and then almost you've got to go home. And I'm thinking that if you're there for 2 weeks, you can really take advantage of it, get your ski fitness, and then get the most out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I find you can sort of pace yourself a little bit more. That when I go for a week, I try and ski every minute of every day. And that's exciting too. But yeah, if you have the 2 weeks, then you have the luxury of saying, okay, if it's a whiteout day, then maybe this is the morning off, and then get your legs properly under yourself. And then the next day when it is good, you really can go for it. So I really enjoy doing it that way.
Well, I mentioned that I was skiing in dry Zinnen, and I guess that must have been last Friday now, might have been Thursday, trying to think back. I'll be going out again to Sicily to ski on Mount Etna, something I'll be reporting on in a couple of podcasts time. But we do have some snow reports from some of our regular contributors and one new one. So let's have a listen to those.
Hi, Ian. This is Louise Newton from Iglu Ski, and I'm reporting on Wednesday, the 12th of February. The sun is shining. We are here in Bansko, Bulgaria. I'm at the rather lovely Sheraton Hotel. And we have been skiing in bright sunshine since we arrived at the weekend. The snow is truly fantastic. Right at the top at Todorka, there is 185 centimetres of snow. And you can easily ski all the way down the north-facing cruisy tree-lined blues and a couple of interesting reds all the way back down the 7 kilometres into the town of Bansko. It has been -5 to -11, good and chilly, and the forecast is for more snow this afternoon, Wednesday. And the great news for those coming in for half term is that there is even more snow due to come on Monday afternoon. So all in all, fantastic snow conditions in Bansko, and it's been a really great season for them here.
Hi Ian, it's Mike the Snow Richards reporting in with more Turkish delight. Good morning, or as Günaydın as they say in these parts. On this trip I started off in Uludag near Istanbul, a couple of hours out of Istanbul, hoping for snow, and that's exactly what I got. Unfortunately, the snow came with cloud and fog and high winds, which meant that the upper lifts were closed for a couple of days, but I managed to keep myself occupied and happy in the Kaya hotel I was staying at. Then on the final day I was there, the Saturday, all the lifts opened and there were fantastic snow conditions with boot top powder all over the mountain. And then from there I've moved to Dorukkaya, which is the next door neighbour to Kartalkaya, where unfortunately they had that terrible fire incident a couple of weeks back. Kartalkaya is now closed, but Dorukkaya is fully open and it's unbelievable. It's a beautiful resort, quiet, fantastic grooming, and in the 4 days that I've been here we've had over 40 centimetres of snow and nobody to ski it. So look forward to chatting to you again as I head to Ereshis on my next stop.
Hi everyone, it's Andy in St Anton. I've been warned to keep this one short and sweet and to the point and not ramble and waffle like I always seem to do. So here we go. It's the 12th of February. It's just coming up to the really, really busy time in resort. The snow hasn't been amazing, I can't lie. It hasn't snowed for probably nearly 2 weeks now, but it has stayed very, very cold. It's been super cold, the sort of like -8, 9, 10s, which has kept the snow in great condition actually. So although the snow has been like kind of scraping off and icy in the mornings, it has been holding across the whole of the Arlberg. The off-piste hasn't been great, which has been a bit of a shame, but ski tourers are loving it because the snowpack is very safe, and the access to all the snow, to all the great runs, is very, very kind of easy on the touring at the moment. The forecast to come is snow and more snow. We're expecting about 30 centimetres in the next 3 days. So it's dumping as I speak now, and hoping that it carries on for the next couple of days and puts down this 30 centimetre dump that we've been promised just before the UK half terms and the rest of Europe has their holidays. The forecast after the weekend is more sun. So the sun should be coming out. So anyone coming away for the half-term holidays from the UK should be loving the weather conditions next week. Fresh snow and blue skies and keeping it crisp and cold, which is lovely. Well, that is 1 minute and 26 seconds exactly. All the best. Bye.
Don't forget, if you want to help the Ski Podcast and save yourself some money this winter, all you need to do is to use the code Ski Podcast when you book your ski hire at intersportrent.com. That applies to any ski hire booked in their massive network across France, Austria and Switzerland. That's hundreds of resorts in total. You'll get a guaranteed additional discount, or simply take the link in the show notes for your discount to be applied automatically. Now, I'm delighted to say that our friends at Vallon have given us a super cool pair of goggles to give away to one of our listeners. No one else is on the video right now, but I'm taking it out of the box. These look really great. They look them up. They are Freebirds Off-White Silver. They retail for £136. And so I'm going to be giving them away to one of our listeners. You can have a look in the show notes for the details, but I can tell you that all you need to do to go into the draw to win is to leave us a comment on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts. So you've got the two options there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the winner at random, and you'll need to keep listening. And I'll announce it in a couple of episodes time, and those goggles will be going out to you. So there you go. Now, some great news from the European Youth Olympics in Bakuriani in Georgia. Zach Carrick-Smith was named as one of Team GB's flag bearers, but even better, his twin, Freddy Carrick-Smith, took gold in the Giant Slalom on Monday. Zach was fifth in that race. And then breaking news that I got this morning is that we've picked up another medal as well, and that is in the ski slopestyle, and it's from 16-year-old Sandra Cohn from Scotland, who won the medal there. So that is fantastic news for those two. In the world of freestyle, Mia Brooks retained the Big Air Crystal Globe. She's only just turned 18 herself. And if you haven't listened to my interview with Ski Sunday's Ed Leigh a couple of episodes ago, I'll put a link in the show notes. I recommend that. We chat about Mia in that. Plenty more events coming up. Charlotte Branks will be in El Cortina this weekend on the back of back-to-back wins. Zoe Atkin, She will be competing the halfpipe in Calgary. You can have a look on the YouTube Skipedia YouTube channel for a video interview I did with her that I'll be releasing shortly as a podcast as well. We've got the World Champs in Sailback going on with Dave riding, competing this weekend. And then the Carrick-Smith boys are racing again this morning in the slalom in the European Youth Olympics. So we'll see what happens there. I mentioned I was in Zinnen last weekend, and one of the reasons I asked Babsi to join me is I know she's been a fan of the resort for years. How many times have you been there?
I think it's our 6th time now. I can't actually believe you haven't been. It's so beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it is just stunning.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I loved all aspects about it. I mean, you've been going there, 6 times. I think you're about to leave tomorrow to go there again. Yeah. And I know it's a big trip. It's a family holiday, and you've got a bunch of families going with you. What kind of makes it stand out for you then? What's been making you come back to Zinnen again and again?
So much. I mean, where shall I start? It's just, I think this is why. I mean, this year it's going to be 50 of us, because every year more and more friends join, and I think it's just one of those places that are, I mean, apart from being just a beautiful spot, the snow is always good. It's sunny, which is so important on a family holiday. I don't know how you found it, but I mean, it's such a safe place. So for families, obviously coming with young children, the lifts are brilliant because I think I might have told you my sort of daughter has learning difficulties. So it's really important for me to have like a safe environment. Half term isn't busy. I think it was one year where it was busier because it fell on the Austrian or German sort of holidays. But apart from that, it's just very quiet and safe.
Well, I think I'd agree with all of those things. And just so listeners can understand, let's just cover the geography of it. So Zinnen is the ski area. It covers kind of 4 or 5 different resorts, but the main area of skiing, have to get my pronunciation right, but Versace and Sexton over in that kind of section. And there's a lot of skiing over there. But I stayed in Innichen San Candido, and all of these places have 2 names. They've got the kind of German name and the Italian name, because it's South Tyrol, isn't it? The area. Yeah. And just in case listeners can get confused, South Tyrol is very definitely Italy, isn't it? But historically, at one time, it was Austria.
Yeah, that's correct. So I actually speak German there mostly when I go, which is obviously really good for me to practice my German again. But it's mainly German, but it's got the Italian flair, German engineering. I don't know if you found that. It's very well run.
And another one, someone said it's got a Italian cuisine and kind of an Austrian organisation. Yeah. So you're getting the best of both worlds. But you said it feels very safe. I mean, what really came across to me, and I stayed in Innichen San Candido, which is like a short bus ride to the big ski area, although there is skiing there as well, is that the town itself is very friendly, very family focused. All the businesses that I came across are run by families. You won't find a McDonald's there. You won't find a Starbucks there. Everything is very local and sustainable. That's what really came across to me about it.
Yeah, it really is. And for example, we've got an apartment we have every year. Well, we had this one for 3 years now, but it's very reasonable. So for the 5 of us, I think we pay for 8 nights, £1,500. So, and it's really, it's a luxury place. It's very, very nice.
Yeah, so value as well, which, you kind of expect in Italy. And, the ski area itself, what I really liked about it was a lot of fast chairs. A lot of them were heated as well, with the barriers, that come down to protect you from the wind, which, you don't get in a lot of places. You've got modern gondolas, not super high. The highest point in the ski area is 2,225, going down to 1,100. But I posted a snow report on the Skipedia YouTube video. They haven't had snow for a while, but unlike in France, where you've kind of got, because it's higher, I guess, you've got rocks underneath. It's all meadows underneath. There were no patches in the slope at all. They obviously blended, real snow and artificial snow, but it was good quality snow. The whole area was covered. You could do that 1,100, 1,200, vertical drop in one go if you wanted to. There's good black runs there as well. It felt like there was something for everyone in the ski area.
No, absolutely. And as you say, I mean, it's a new resort, so the snowmaking is very good. And as you said, the meadows obviously help protect, the skiing. The main reason we love it there as well, it's always sunny, always. And, as much as I like, a big ski resort, it is absolutely big enough for a family holiday. And as I say, we never get bored. We're coming back every year.
And in terms of the ski area, some of it is connected by bus if you want to ski the whole area. And I thought, right, I've only got one day skiing here. I'm going to do this. And I did this fantastic, very, very beautiful, I guess, blue run that went through the trees to the Kreuzberg Pass. Have you done that run before?
Oh, I don't know. Does it go to the chicken restaurant? That's our favorite. past the enormous snowman.
Yeah, that's right. I remember the enormous snowman. Well, this is great. It was just to get to the far end of the area, Val Comelico. Can't even say that. That's that area right on the far side, which I was told is actually in Trentino. It's out of South Tyrol by the time you get there. And I had to get a bus to get there as well. So I did these 2 long blue traverses through the trees. Then I took a bus for like a 5-minute bus ride. And it really liked it there. It was like a really small little village, but a modern chairlift, big wide piece, no one there. So you could zoom down these runs. And according to my Strava, possibly shouldn't admit this, but according to my Strava, I hit 95 kilometers an hour when I was going down there. But there was no one around. In no way at all was this dangerous, apart from to me, possibly. Before I then took the bus back again. Also, I noticed that in Innichen, they have floodlit skiing a couple of times a week. Have you ever tried that at all, or anyone in your group done that?
Yes, we haven't done it because, to be honest, after skiing a whole day with the children, we are all exhausted. So we do other activities like swimming. And I think you talk about the sledging, which we will do. But our friends have done it, and it is fun. It is fun. And obviously just on your doorstep if you are in San Candido, in Innichen.
Yeah, the nice thing to do in the evening. There were a lot of people there. It looked like, a lot of the kids from the valley who maybe had been at school in the day or whatever. And it seemed to be a very social sort of thing as well. We stopped at the mountain restaurant. Well, I didn't actually ski in the floodlit side of things. I did the tobogganing. And the tobogganing was brilliant fun. It was like €11 for the evening. And you could do as many laps as you wanted to. And initially I was a little kind of, I'm not too sure about this. I mean, I'm going to scoot off the edge. But it was such fun, just really crazy. And then, just went inside for hot chocolate because it was a pretty cold night as well. In fact, something else I tried while I was over there, which I'd not done before, I'd done tobogganing before, was snowshoeing over in the Kreuzberg Pass. I mean, this is the sort of thing that only happens on a press trip. We went to Kreuzberg Pass, did a hike. It was very lovely, through the trees, very quiet, etc. I think it's difficult sometimes if you're on a ski holiday and you bought like a 6-day lift ticket, you want to ski every day.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I would like to do in the future. And I travel by train. We're going to be discussing that a little bit later on. But you don't have to fly to get there. You normally drive, is that right?
We drive everywhere. Yeah, we love it because we have all our stuff with us. We don't, we just take it with us. It's 5 of us. It's easier with the children, and it's just our holiday. We just have a break, like a stay over somewhere, and then continue to drive Zinnen.
Yeah, well, it certainly makes sense. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to be talking about the train. I went on the European sleeper. Have you ever taken a night train before?
Yeah.
You don't sound very enthusiastic about that, Babsi.
I don't think there was much sleeping. Yes, in my 20s. Yes, it was good fun. I wouldn't want to do it now. And I don't know how is it with the family now? Has it changed?
Keep listening. I'm going to cover that a little bit more later on. Let's just finish off about Dry Zinnen. So just to clarify then, Dry Zinnen is in Südtirol. It's the northern bit of the Dolomites. You've got several areas covered. In Innichen itself, I think that's probably the obvious place to say, Innichen San Candido, because it's a bigger town. There's a lot going on there. lots of great restaurants, that local feel. In fact, I don't know if you know this, might have done a couple of things that you didn't hear about.
Yeah.
Apparently, they have tax breaks for local farms because they allow them to rent out accommodation and then don't tax them on those rooms, because they want them to keep operating, because they want to keep those local farms of maybe 5, 10, 20 cows in business, because they want to keep young people and want to keep people in the area. They don't want people moving away, because it's quite a wealthy area of Italy as it goes. They have a lot of jobs, so they want to keep people in the area. And then something else from the sustainability side of things, I'm always, this is always important to me. Their electricity is renewable, run off hydroelectric. So all those lifts run on a sustainable renewable power. But the heating across the entire village in Innichen is powered by wood chips, which are left over from forestry. So that is renewable as well. And apparently they did that, decades ago. It's not like a modern thing. They don't really talk about it much.
No.
And they're really strong on sustainability as well.
Well, I did know they were strong on that. And I did know about the lifts and also how the snowmaking is very sustainable. That's amazing about the town. I did not know that.
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons I think I really enjoyed it. I know you're self-catering in your apartments. There are some amazing restaurants there as well. Again, all very locally focused. I ate in a couple. One of them is called Atto, another one called Botanic, which is more a kind of aperitif type of place. It's got a museum in there all about the geology of the Dolomites, and has lots of different fossils in there. I stayed in a place called the Hotel Tyrol. I don't know if you know that one. It's a 4-star, has a spa, probably a bit more expensive than your apartment, but very nice if you wanted to stop over for an evening. And then there's a lot of history to the area as well. I mean, it's like 3 churches all kind of in a row. There's a Jesus on a crucifix there that is 900 years old. Very, very rare. And I think it's a Gothic Romanesque church, which is worth a visit while you're there. So anyway, so many reasons to visit the area. I know you've got to go and pack your car to drive out there tomorrow, Babsi. So I'm going to let you go and do that. Thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was great. Thanks very much, Babsi. Let's move on to Dom now. Right, it's great to have you back on the show, Dom. Regular listeners will know about the work that Protect Our Winters do. I think we probably last spoke at the ski show when I was, you had a really brilliant interactive setup there. I wondered how that went and how your initiatives have gone since then.
Yeah, I think that was fantastic. We had some new activities for that event. So we had sort of card games of higher, lower, and climate fresh style thing where you can work out what the chain of impacts is of climate change on snow sports. So it gave us some real framework and some pledge tokens as well to commit to actions. So I think that was a really positive event for us. And definitely some more events coming up in which there are films and so on with Fort William Film Festival. Plenty going on at POW, and planning our campaigns for the year and so on. So definitely some travel campaigning coming up in the next couple of months when we align with another organisation.
Now, I did see this, and I was going to bring it up later, but let's talk about that now. What is that? There's some. If I got the gist of it, there are prizes available for demonstrating and sharing your eco ways to get to the slopes. Is that right?
That's right. So this is something that's actually been led out of Protect Winters Europe, where we have these different national chapters. And this is with the World Snowboard Federation, a bit of work that's being done there. So there is an ongoing challenge where I think you've got about 3 or 4 more weeks to, there are several, I think 5 or 6 different challenges, one of which is getting to the slopes in an eco manner. There's others around what your DIY lunches are and so on. And if you upload a video onto the Chal app for the challenge, then you can win prizes. So a good motivator to get to the slopes in an environmental manner there.
Okay, well, I'll put links into the show notes about that. And that segues perfectly into our conversation, because you mentioned you were in Serre Chevalier, and I happen to know that you travelled there by train. I just wondered, I think it'd probably be useful for our listeners, some might know how you get there, how that works. But I wondered if you could just talk us through the journey and how it went for you.
Yeah, so I actually took a different route on the way out to the way back. So on the way out, both routes fundamentally used the Eurostar to get into France. So on the way out, went to Paris, did the classic RER from Gare du Nord to Gare de Lyon, and then took a train down as far as a small stop called, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation perhaps, Saint Jean de Maurienne, which is then a coach from there to Serre Chevalier. So I think we left maybe 9 o'clock-ish in the morning on the Eurostar, and we're there just after dinner time. The route worked pretty well, not too many changes, but what will actually make that quicker in future years is there's been, I think, some sort of issue further down the line, and you can normally go slightly further on that train to U, and then get a bus from there, and that would shorten the bus by a couple of hours, like much shorter extension to the train. So it'll be even quicker in future seasons.
Yeah, okay. So I was just getting my head around the route that you took there, and you're exactly right. That is in the Maurienne Valley there, Saint Jean de Maurienne. And at the end of that valley, it was not last summer, but the summer before, there was a landslip that ended up blocking the road. Yeah, it is still blocked as far as the road is clear, but as far as the railway is concerned, that has been blocked. But they have confirmed that trains will be running again from the end of March, and that will be really good, because essentially that is the main line going from Paris to Turin and through. And you're right that train would go through to U, above Sausadu in Italy, and make it much easier to get to somewhere like Serre Chevalier. So that was the way out. And then, therefore, on the way back, you took a different route then?
Yes, on the way back, took the route via Lille. And I do quite like trying to choose my routes so they go through there, just to avoid that transfer in Paris. Similarly, took the coach down to the same starting stop and then changed in Lyon to get to Lille, and then took a Eurostar from there. So I'd say similar in terms of amounts of transition, because that extra change in Lyon, yeah, worked pretty well as well. That worked well too. On the way back, just to make sure we got that extra day of skiing in to the maximum possibility, we did Saturday night in Saint Jean de Maurienne after the coach, and then set off early that next morning. So that made sure we definitely could take it easy and get a decent day skiing in on that last day. You
said you went via Lille on the way back, so much easier change of trains than going via Paris. So I've only been via Lille once.
It's not that big a station either, and you don't have to go and get on the metro and go a couple of stops. So if you have large bags, which we're carrying a ski bag and a snowboard bag each, and then it definitely helps with that, because that can be the one downside of that Paris change there.
Now, to my mind, Serre Chevalier is one of the how can you put it? Greenest probably isn't the best word to use for a ski resort, but the most environmentally friendly ski resorts out there in terms of the actions that they are taking. They're producing a lot of their own electricity. They're really focused on sustainability. They're part of that Compagnie des Alpes group, and they use Serre Chevalier as a kind of testing hub for lots of different things. I'm just interested, you work for Protect Our Winters, you travel by train. Did you pick Serre Chevalier for any of those reasons at all?
I think so. I think that was why I was more aware of it. It's definitely not one of those resorts where you get as many British skiers there. And I think I have been, maybe it was more present in my mind because you do see lots of news stories about, testing of solar panels on top of these chairlifts, stations and so on. So I think that brought it to my attention, the fact that we could do it by train. And they happen to have the right course on and for ski touring that my partner wanted to do. So, it all came together quite nicely there. And I do quite like going to a different resort each time. So have previously gone on the train to Tignes and Les Arcs and Morzine and Chamonix. So, all of these resorts are options. And I would say using that board route to Tignes and Les Arcs and so on was a great way to start the journey, getting into journeying via train, because it's just slightly fewer changes, slightly quicker, and then beyond that, then you can maybe start doing these ones that require slightly more changes and so on.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense, and I do hope to go to Serre Chevalier by train Next winter, I have an idea in mind for a press trip and an article that I can write. And I've been to Serre Chevalier several times before, but never by train as yet. I'm also kind of interested in Serre Chevalier because I do know it's one of the places you can take a night train to within France. There are only a few routes these days on SNCF where you can take a night train. However, there are more sleeper trains appearing all over Europe. And evidently, I mentioned I was in Zinnen, and when I travelled out there by overnight train on a new service called the European Sleeper. So, it was my first time in the Dolomites. And one of the reasons for that is it's not been that easy to get to by train until now. Previously, you could maybe take a stop overnight in Milan, or you could go via Amsterdam and take the night jet to Innsbruck and then change there. Regular listeners will remember I interviewed Chris Engelsman, who's one of the founders of European Sleeper, back in the autumn. That was in episode 221. I'll put a link in the show notes. They have introduced a new overnight train that's going to run from, or is running from, Brussels to Venice. And that route opens up the Dolomites, because after Innsbruck, it goes down through the Dolomites. And so actually, it was a real privilege. I was on the inaugural service last week. I've written a full blog post about the journey on Ski Flight Free, posted it on YouTube, and written something up for Flight Free UK as well. I can tell you, it didn't go perfectly. It was great fun. Dealing with the big issue first is, in the end, the train did not go through into Italy and it had to stop in Innsbruck. Now, we were told at the launch event in Brussels that they had only been told 9 p.m. the night before by the Italian rail authorities. Apparently, there was a missing signature. It seems to be a bit unclear. Maybe there are 2 locomotives required when you go into Italy. Certainly, they have to change a locomotive every time they cross a border. So there's a lot of logistical issues in making something like this happen, a train that goes through 5 countries. But whatever it was, you would have thought it could be resolved, but it wasn't a big issue to me. I wasn't going all the way to Venice. I was going to the Dolomites. We just changed the last 90 minutes of the journey onto an OBB railjet. And to be honest, it was quite good. I just got off at Innsbruck, topped up on supplies, had a bit of breakfast. We got into resort a couple of hours later than planned, but it wasn't a big deal. And the train itself, have you ever been on a sleeper train before, Dom?
I have. I've been on a couple. I went actually on one from Germany to Sweden for the Power Europe Summit not so long ago, and then the Caledonian in up to Scotland, but not some of these down there. So interested to find out all about this.
Well, the Caledonian Sleeper, probably you had a cabin for 2, I would guess. I went on that last year, very, very comfortable. Mark Smith told me in his interview with me, Man the 661, it's his favourite train. When you went from Germany up to Sweden, was that like from Hamburg? And was it a couchette system?
It was a couchette system.
The typical way of travelling, overnight trains, when I've been down to Nice a couple of times in the last few years, they're normally couchettes of 6. You get triple bunks on either side. Was that what it was like when you went up to Sweden?
Yeah, 6-person couchette, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it was like on the European Sleeper. There were sleeper cabins, like the first class, you might put it, that you could book for just 2 people. But for most people, you're sharing a couchette for 6. As it was, there are only 3 people in mine, so we have plenty of space. And there were quite a lot of couchettes that were empty. And to be honest with you, on the return journey, I found it too hot in the couchette I was in, so I actually got up and went into one of the empty ones and slept in there instead, which is absolutely fine. What was it like on the train? Well, you can look at my video and the Ski Flight Free update. I'm a little biased because I love train travel, but it was great fun. I really enjoyed it. The timings are such, if you want to get that train, you leave Brussels about 6 p.m. So you can get, normally I'm having to get the first Eurostar from St Pancras in the morning. In this case, the timings are such you wouldn't have to leave until the afternoon. You get into Innsbruck the following morning about 10 a.m. The Dolomite access points are about 11 to 11:30. My experience of the train was there were a lot of groups. There were a lot of young people. It was a lot of fun. The whole train wasn't a party, but there were different parties going on. There were Brits, there were Belgians, there were Dutch, there were Italians. It was a real international feel, and it felt like a sort of community on rails. You're all in it together. And what I really liked about European Sleeper is they had a dining car with a bar in there. And that was brilliant. And on the way down there, it was absolutely packed. It was a great atmosphere. Mark Smith, man, the seat 61, he'd been very clever, pre-booked his meal to guarantee a seat in there. His meal looked good, but it was really sociable. I mean, some people have, gone to bed already and just, put the curtains and gone to sleep. But it was a great fun overall. I wouldn't say it was the best night's sleep I've ever had, but it was a long way from the worst. And, I think it probably helped that the train wasn't full. And, you can pre-book breakfast, which they bring to you in your cabin as well. There was plenty of space for bags, for ski bags. People were just tucking them in the aisle. There was plenty of space in the corridors. Yeah, I would really recommend it. Would you consider, have you thought about a trip like that, Dom?
Yeah, definitely. I actually was looking at it for the Serre Chevalier trip I did, but I think that for some reason the dates on what was still available didn't work out. But 100%, as I said, I already stopped over for a night on the way back to make sure I could get that extra day skiing. And so if I could just be on a night train instead, then even better. And I like getting into a couchette and going to sleep and waking up in a different place. That's always fun, yeah.
It's brilliant. I mean, I travelled through 6 countries on both days, on the way through and on the way back. The UK, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Italy. It really felt like proper travelling. I was just going from the UK to a ski resort, but it was really dynamic and exciting. And in relation to just addressing that point about an extra day, on the way back, we got on at Bressanone, Brixen, and our train left there at, I think, 5 minutes past 7 in the evening. So you could get your extra day there. I think in the morning, you're probably not going to get into the resort until lunchtime. You could get yourself a half-day pass or something like that. But you can definitely get some extra skiing in as well. So I'll put all the links to that in the show notes, listener, if you want to find more about the European sleeper. I'll also be updating on Ski Flight Free when we find out about what's going on with the future trains. Hopefully they'll be going through to Venice and not stopping in Innsbruck. Now, regular listeners will remember I've been asking a couple of times for Valentines stories, really stories from listeners who met their partners on ski holidays or during ski seasons. And I have had some quite good feedback about that. I think, interestingly, it was all from the male partner in relationships. But let's have a listen to a few of those.
Hi, Iain. Been really enjoying the ski podcast. It's got a great mix of guests. And for someone who's been for skiing for nearly 40 years, I still find myself learning something new or hearing about a new resort when listening to it. I heard your cry for volunteers of couples who met in the mountains, and I thought I had to respond. I met my wife, Vicky, what will be 20 years ago, around Valentine's Day this year. We met in Zermatt while working for the ski company Powderburn in 2005. Pretty certain I found the job via natives. We love Zermatt so much that we actually went and got married there in March 2013. And I've been happily married for over 10 years now.
Hi, Iain. Good morning from sunny Burnley, and thanks for the opportunity to share our story on your podcast. My wife Mary and I have been married for 13 years, and we have 2 boys who are brilliant skiers. Our very first holiday together was a ski trip to Japan. On New Year's Day 2009, we landed in Asahikawa Airport and drove to a small resort called Furano. Furano is tiny by European standards. It sits at 200 meters above sea level, and it has about 1,000 meters of vertical. There are a dozen of lifts. I think there is 1 or 2 cable cars, the rest being bubbles and chairlifts. The very first day we went up, Mary had actually never been on snow before. We went up to the top of the mountain and made a few runs down. I think we boarded first and then we switched to skiing. It was a tough one for her, of course, and she did amazingly well to improve during that week. And since then, we have been skiing all over the world. We've been to Argentina, the US, Canada, and all over Europe. Our favorite resort is Verbier, and we'll be there next week. We hope to see you there. Happy skiing. Goodbye.
Hi, Iain. I hear you're after some romantic stories from the mountains. Well, here's one. So about 30 years ago, I went off to do a ski season after uni and met a certain redhead called Nicola Calderwood in Courchevel. And we had an amazing season, met incredible friends. She went back and did another season in Maribel. Then she came home. We got together. And then a few years after working a bit in London, we went away and ran a chalet together. And now we're married with 2 ski mad kids. So yeah, marriage made in the mountains.
Hello Iain, this is Mike Greenland. Here's a Valentine piece that may amuse you. In 1971 I qualified as one of the very early ASSIs, that is an artificial slope ski instructor. I mainly used to teach on the indoor slope in Bristol and for a short while at Gloucester. In 1974, I went with a friend to teach school children for 2 weeks with schools abroad. They were a major player in school ski holidays at that time. I was in a place called Le Mont d'Or in the Massif Central. I then spent a further 4 weeks driving around many resorts in the Alps in my Ford Capri. It was while in Le Mont d'Or that I met a teacher who had brought a school party from Reading. We met and we married in 1976 and are still happily married. So I'm afraid it's very corny, but she fell in love with the ski instructor.
So, I really like that. I really like listener feedback, listener engagement, and hopefully, listener, you found that kind of fun and enjoyable as well. And, if you have feedback about the show, I'm always interested to know what you think. Please do contact me on social @Ski Podcast or by email, theskipodcast@gmail.com. I have had a couple of messages since the last podcast. Oliver Padgett said, thanks for all the time and effort you put into making a great podcast. Keep up the great work. Very kind of you, Oliver. Pat McInnes said, I've been a long-time listener. My fix of snow-related info throughout the year when I'm driving to work. I particularly enjoyed the 2024 gear guides with Alan Morgan. The recent Japanese discussion and the interview with John Yates-Smith was amazing. I travelled with YSE on a warm-up week and can attest to his playful ribbing of all things snowboarding. He was very funny. Iain does a great job of putting the show together, sounds professional, deep insight, has some really interesting guests. I wish there was more of it. Well, I would love to put out more, Pat. I'm doing one a week during the winter. I don't know if I could find the time to do more, but I will do my best, and thanks for your feedback. And finally, Will Kersham said, I've just started listening to your podcast at the ripe old age of 49. I love it. Lots of interesting stuff about skiing. And being a bit of a geek, I love the behind-the-scenes stuff. I love to hear about how resorts work, maintain the infrastructure, etc. Keep going with the podcast and I'll keep listening. So that is great. That was really interesting from Will. And, that is part of my motivation. I think, for, let's say, regular holiday makers, find it really interesting to find out more about those communities and the businesses that go on in the background in ski resorts that you don't necessarily notice. To me, that's such a big part of it. Now, there are now 249 episodes of the Ski Podcast to catch up with. 156 of those to listen to in the last week. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not go to skipodcast.com? Take a look around the tags and categories. There is so much in there, you're bound to find something of interest. In the last week, 58% of our listeners are in the UK, 16% in the States, and everyone else spread as far and wide as Oman, Tanzania, and I noticed we had one listener in Greenland who are presumably hoping they're not going to be part of the States in the future as well. Now, if you like the podcast, there are 3 things you could do to help. Follow us. Look for that button and press it now. I notice our listeners or subscribers on Spotify has gone up quite a lot this winter. So if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, you can do that. You can give us a review and leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget, if you do that, you'll be in the running to win this pair of Vallon goggles I'm holding in my hand at the moment. You can follow me at Skipedia and the podcast at the Ski Podcast. And you can also follow us on WhatsApp for exclusive material released ahead of the podcast. Just look in the show notes for that link. I'd like to thank my guest today, Babsi, who had to leave early, and Dom.
Yes, thanks for having me on, Iain. And do give Power a follow at protectorwinters.uk website. You can find our newsletter and Instagram via there.
Excellent. And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.